Hello and welcome. My name is ELENA and I'm the Executive Director of the Eviction Defense Network. This video is focused on how to go from Zoom to a victory in court. Please watch it before each Zoom meeting in order to help you prepare. If you have questions, please join us at our Friday 6 p.m. tenant support group. Next slide. At the Tenant Support Group, you can learn about technology and using Zoom correctly. You'll learn basic Zoom etiquette, like muting yourself before joining and not unmuting yourself unless we call on you. You'll also learn how other tenants have used these webinars to get great results. Next slide. The Eviction Defense Network has a 98% success rate in resolving eviction cases. While there is no guarantee, our success rate speaks volumes about our experience, knowledge, and commitment. If you focus, listen, absorb, learn, and follow through with our instructions, you are very likely to be part of that 98% success. Next slide. The success rate of these webinars is better than 98%. Only one household has lost. We had a victory in a trial where the opposing counsel complained to the judge that the tenant was obviously being coached because he was unexpectedly well prepared. Approximately 27 households have had successful settlements, and most of our webinar attendees are still in the process. Please join us and learn how to kick butt in your eviction case and how to be a winner in life. Next slide. Help us be efficient at the webinars by being attentive to Zoom etiquette. Please mute yourself and stay muted unless you're called on. Please pay attention, and if you haven't been paying attention, don't interrupt. If you're confused about where we are, ask in the chat and a volunteer will guide you. And please don't interrupt the flow. Next slide. The Zoom meetings are not private. You need to rename yourself to only your first name, and if you have an unusual first name, to a nickname. Turn off your video and remove any photographs of yourself. And if you're on a computer, in order to rename yourself, these are the steps you need to take. First, find and click participants at the bottom of your screen. Now, search for your name and put your cursor over your name. Next slide. Click More on the right. Next slide. Click on Rename. Next slide. Rename yourself with your first name only. That's to protect your identity, and the date of your next deadline, and then say what the deadline is. Next slide. Here are some examples. So just by looking at this, I can tell that Sue has court on the 12th, and David has a discovery deadline on the 13th. And Fred thinks his answer is due on the 1st because he doesn't know that if it's a holiday or weekend, he has till the following day. Karen has a notice to vacate from the sheriff that expires on the 15th, and Joe is just here to listen and learn. So the goal of this renaming is to make sure that we see people in the order of urgency. The date tells us what the urgency is, and the information tells us exactly what you need to talk or learn about. Next slide. And if you're not sure what all of this means or how to do it, please, next slide, please come to a Friday night support group at 6 p.m. Next slide. Now, this is the Zoom screen on most computers. On the lower left side is the microphone. Please stay on red unless you're called on, and be ready to unmute immediately. We spend an incredible amount of time asking people to unmute, and an equally incredible amount of time listening to people apologize about wasting our time by not unmuting right away. So please be ready to unmute, know where your microphone is, and have your video off. If you look at where it says participants, and if you could put your cursor there, Kevin, where it says participants, if you click on that, you'll get a list of all of the participants, and that's where you go in to rename yourself. And if you go to where it says chat, and Kevin is going to put his cursor there, if you click on that, on the right-hand side, you're going to get the view of the chat where you can message people. And if you go, Kevin, put your cursor on where it says reactions. If I say, please give people some love, you can send people hearts or applause or raise your hand on that button. Next slide. Please Google how to learn to use Zoom and get more training. And especially if you're on a phone or an iPad, please learn how to use Zoom or come to the Friday night support group to get help with this. Now, what you all want to know more than anything else is, how do I get to speak to a lawyer? Well, you're speaking to a lawyer. I am a lawyer. I'm a lawyer with almost 40 years experience. And the way you speak to a lawyer is you start by preparing your personal information paragraph. You're going to put that in the chat just to me to protect your privacy. And then you're going to wait to be called. We will call on people in the order of your deadlines. If we don't have enough time to get to you, we will ask you to come back to another webinar. This is what the personal information paragraph looks like. Do not write it on Zoom. When people write it on Zoom, I get like 10 versions because you push enter too soon and it comes up too soon. It's very confusing. You write it exactly the way it is here, exactly in this order. You proofread it. And then once you're on Zoom, you copy and paste it into the chat. And you send that information to me, Elena Pop, only during the webinar on the chat to protect your anonymity. You send it once. This has to be a paragraph without any breaks. I'm going to take just a minute to explain to you why each little piece of information here is important. We need your full name. We are a law firm. We need to know who we are helping. The case number tells us the year that the case was filed. If it's an old case, the judge is going to be pushing it out faster. If it's a new case, the judge is going to be a little more relaxed about it. It also tells you the court you're in. So STUD is for Stanley Mosque or the downtown LA court. So we say 22 is the year the case was filed will be first, and then STUD to make it fast, and then the numbers. PDUD is for Pasadena, CMUD is for Compton, and WCUD is West Covina. Don't ask me why. I guess because WCUD doesn't sound good to people. I don't know. We're asking for the address because between the address, the year built, and the number of unit on the lot, we can tell whether you're protected under any rent stabilization laws, and the address tells us what COVID laws protect you. We ask you for family size, whether there's anybody who's frail and elderly or frail and disabled, because that would make that household a priority for full representation. The address, combined with the rent amount and the number of bedrooms, tells us if you're in a unit that is cheaper than other units in your neighborhood. And the lower that your rent is, the harder we want to fight to stay. And if your rent is high, then you should consider moving. By knowing opposing counsel, who the landlord's lawyer is, we know how prepared we need to be. Some are more prepared than others. Whether the case is likely to go to trial, and how to approach settlement. The title of the notice that is the reason for this lawsuit tells us a lot about the case. And if it's a non-payment of rent case, the months that they are asking for in the notice itself, and whether or not you are COVID impacted, tells us whether you have COVID defenses, and it goes to whether we can win. By telling us who did the answer, we know two things. First, whether a jury was demanded, and also how likely there is that there's going to be mistakes in it. You have 10 days from the date you filed that answer to correct the mistakes. So we want to know when it's filed so that we know how many days we have to fix the mistakes if there are any. The date of your next deadline tells us the order in which we need to see you at the webinar so that we can get through everyone that has deadlines before the next webinar and make sure you're prepared. But I do ask you not to complain about not being seen. If you say, I've been here since 8:30, I'm not going to be seen, I'm going to congratulate you for everything that you've learned and welcome you to the next session. We want to know if you preserved a jury and how many times you've already been to court, because that tells us what we have to work on today. What kind of script, what are we going to be practicing that you're going to say to the judge and the other side the next time you're in court? If you're here to listen and learn, do your personal information paragraph, put it in the chat, but say at the end that you're here to listen and learn. By doing it each time, it keeps you focused on why you're here. So it's good to do it. And then just write listen and learn, and then I know that I'm not calling on you this particular day. And if that is the case, your screen name should also be ELENA for listen and learn. Next slide. Here's an example that's already filled out. John Q. Tenant, his case number, his department number, phone number, email address, year billed, etc., etc. You can see that a jury was preserved, and this is the 5th time he's going to court. So we're going to treat that case a little differently from someone who has a jury preserved and hasn't gone to court before. Next slide. If you do this correctly, you're going to go right to the front of the line. One of the things that you absolutely have to remember, though, is to not hit the return key or the enter key. When you do that, it messes up the database by creating extra fields. If you are confused, please go to the tenant support group meeting. Please buy a spiral notebook to take notes about everything that happens in your case. And for each entry, include the date, time, who was there, the name of their agency, their phone number, their address, and any details. So as we can see here, this perfect tenant spoke with someone from the housing department named Marie Smith, who told her that if she ate green eggs and ham, she would win for sure. She's got some doubts about that, so she's going to check it out at the webinar. But a few minutes later, she decides that it's important enough, urgent enough, to send a text to ELENA Pop. ELENA Pop responded, see you Saturday. If ELENA Pop responds to you, see you Saturday, it's a nice way of saying you're abusing her cell phone. The cell phone is for emergency lockouts and for the day that you are in court so that she can coach you. It's also, if she needs information for you, you should answer, but you should otherwise not be initiating conversations on that cell phone. Now, on the 14th, our perfect tenant gets up at 8 a.m. She watches this video again because she wants to make sure she's prepared. She rereads and updates her personal information paragraph, and she logs on at 8:20 to make sure she gets a space because we are filling up. And then when she's asked to, she puts the personal information paragraph in the chat. All her questions get answered and everything is great. Then she makes a list of what she needs to do. She's got to start her LA Civ 244 form. If you want to know what that is, you need to watch the trial prep video. She realizes that she hasn't signed up for informed delivery, and there was a terrible story about a tenant that lost their case. So she's going to do that today. And she decides that instead of bugging ELENA, maybe she needs to be going to the department where her trial is going to be so that she can get a feel for her judge. But on the 15th, she kind of loses it again. She texts Elena one little question. Elena texted back with an exploding head. That should be the message that you're really abusing the cell phone and at risk of being blocked on it when you get the exploding head. The cell phone rings incessantly all the time, and it's important for it to be available for people that are being locked out. Next slide. There is a separate video on how to put your trial notebook together and how to put your evidence together. And you will learn about getting all of your documents in the right order in a PDF. You will learn about buying a notebook, preferably an orange one, because that tags you as an Eden. You're carrying around an orange notebook in court, and everybody knows you're one of us. It's going to teach you that how to organize the evidence, how to start organizing everything so that you'll be ready when it's time to exchange documents with the other side. That video is going to teach you how to put together your exhibits. This, for example, is a list of what you need to prove a COVID impact. You'll learn how to put that together. And this is a checklist of other kinds of evidence that you need to start gathering. And of course, reminder, sign up for informed delivery. Now, people want to know, how do I know if Eden is representing me? You cannot stand in front of a judge if we're not standing next to you and say Eden is representing me. If we're representing you, we'd be there. So the way you know if we're representing you, if you've opened a case, full scope, we're your lawyers, is that you're asked to sign 4 sheets of paper. An intake application that looks like this. Most of you have just done it online. This is required by the funders. There's a 4-page retainer agreement. There's this confidentiality waiver that the funders want so that the program can be evaluated. You don't have to say yes, you can say no, but we need your signature on it, either yes or no. And a substitution of attorney. This means we have become your attorney. If you haven't signed those 4 documents, we are not your lawyer. You can say, I'm attending the Eden webinars, but you cannot say we are your lawyer. Now, why isn't Eden representing me? Because there are resources for 5,000 cases a year and 4,000 a month are being filed. Why wasn't I chosen? If you want to know, you need to watch the video on how to get legal help. How do I protect myself if I don't have a lawyer? Again, watch the video on how to get legal help. But start by joining ACE and your tenants union and support the Right to Counsel Coalition. And apply for services at stayhousedla.org. Apply only once. If you're already done it, you should not do it again. But you can follow up with a legal services provider you were assigned to see if they're available. We are all booked up. All of the legal services providers are at capacity, but sometimes things open up. So if you were assigned to them in April and you're still needing help, call them and say, I still need help. I still don't have a lawyer. But don't be pushy and understand there's just a severe limitation. We're only able to help 10% of the people in need. Come to the Friday night support group, 6 p.m. And come to the webinars where you're going to learn the law, you're going to learn to be confident, you're going to learn the court process, you're going to have your case assessed. You're going to get on the court calendar for Eden if you come the webinar before your court appearance, and then you will get guidance either on the phone or in person that day if we have a lawyer in that same courtroom. And sometimes we just step in because we have the time to do it. Please watch all the videos. You can find them at edn.la. Or hire a private attorney. Here is the list. Remember that we're a ship in a storm and that the webinars are a flotation device to keep you afloat until lawyers free up, more rescue boats come, or until you're strong enough to save yourselves. Help us bail water by absorbing the information, learning and following directions, and by helping us help others. And again, if you're confused, go to a tenant support group. We all know that displacement, eviction, is one of the 5 most stressful life events you will ever experience. But you can beat your stress by learning, preparing, and winning. I want to thank you for taking the time to view this video. Please view it again more slowly. Pause the video when needed. Do the tasks that are required, and then move on to the video on how to get legal help. And we look forward to meeting you at the webinars. And always remember that when we fight, we win. Thank you. And recording.